How can technology like AI be used as a force for good in improving the racial diversity of the ad industry?
So something as simple as coding like an NLP parser in AI to look at the context of how the word is used have a completely different effect. If all the machine is trained to look at are data sets that are biased, of course, everything that it puts out will be biased, right? Because you're feeding it a biased data set to begin with. So to combat that, what we're seeing is this rise of synthetic data. And synthetic data is more than just mocked data. It's actually data that's modeled after real world data, right? Because gathering that real world data takes time. It's also biased. So you have to be very careful looking at the source, right? And really scrubbing that, data. What we're doing is we're using AI to create synthetic data that we then feed back into AI systems, right? I know it's very trippy. What we're seeing is we're getting better results when we train AI models based off of synthetic data.
I'm going to tell you candidly, I'm in a still kind of wait and see. I'm always looking for those unintended consequences. In every advancement of technology, there's always some great stride that's achieved, but then there's also some consequence that we didn't foresee that we just need to be aware of. I always think about the car. Yep, absolutely great piece of technology. It performed miraculously well. It helped advance society. But now we're living with some of the ramifications of it with global warming.
What are the ways in which technology and advertising could be used as a vehicle for reducing biases that are not frequently discussed but that you feel should be?
I think the first place to start is looking at some of those technologies that are being used by these big tech companies, right? A lot of these technologies are open source. So you could go on, download it, and see what it's actually doing, right? You can look at the guts of it. That's the beauty of open source development, right? You could say, hey, you know what? Whenever this technology sees the word ebony, it's actually misinterpreting it. So I'm going to fork this repo. I'm going to now create a version of this that fixes that. And then I will submit that to the people who maintain the repo. So it's community-based. There is no one gatekeeper, right? With open source technology, like you have thousands of folks that are contributing to the code base. So I think that implicitly makes it, less of a threat, and it makes it less harmful in a sense because it is open source, right? Now, we don't do a lot of that in advertising. To answer your AI question specific to advertising, right? I think in the next few years, we're going to see a lot more tools like Jasper AI, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Play.ht, like all of these AI-based tools, right? That make it really easy for you to generate content and images. The thing that we have to be very careful with, especially when it comes to advertising, is we need to make sure that there's a sense of cultural understanding behind these tools. I don't know if you've ever played around with generative, AI, where you could like DALL-E or Midway, but you go in there and some of these things are horrible. It's like the results are just like Frankenstein. I think as people in advertising that understand culture, we have to keep these systems honest, right? We're going to have to be the gatekeepers in a sense to flag something when the AI spits out something that's completely offensive, right? Or just wrong. I think we're going to have to bubble that up and get back to the software vendors and say, hey, by the way, we noticed that your system has a problem recognizing that this term is derogatory or it's mislabeled in your system, right? Because we're relying on these things to write copy and to generate images. We have to help keep them accountable. It's a tool that if not used properly, I think could have some dire consequences.